So now there's stuff that we need to do that is going to be part of the challenge, and that is the intercooler piping for this blower. And I want to try and run it in a way that we won't have to cut into the aprons that have been welded and smoothed and painted and looking beautiful. So the name of the game here, which I'm like fingers crossed, and I sort of like played with some piping before the motor went in, and I think I have a way that this is going to work, but we don't know until we try. So as you can see, these pipes, they're welded right onto the discharge section of the blower, and there's not much that we can do there. And there was these couplers, I don't know if it was these black ones or if they were blue ones, I can't remember now. And what was going on before is the pipe was going from here through the factory hole in the apron on this side. That is where the original snorkel for the air cleaner would have come on the carbureted cars. And similarly on this side, this pretty much 90'd off in through the hole that is here, which most of you would be familiar with the washer fluid bottle coming out from that side. So of course, we don't want to cut, damage, you know, just make things messy. And although it would hide the piping, well, not hide the piping, but clean up some of the piping, because then the piping from the inner fender would come down all the way to the intercooler, which is sitting right here, tucked right up behind the GT bumper. And you guys can see that strap there. That's kind of leveling the motor out at the moment, so that, don't mind this, this is the wrong belt. I got the proper belt sitting there. And there's the intercooler, right? So we're trying to just make sure that everything is sitting the way that it should. Once the transmission's bolted on and the cross member's bolted on, then I'll be able to finalize the position of the motor and everything else. But what I want to do, and in that box there, a lot of boxes here, so you can see some of the old piping, and I actually have another piping kit that I was messing around with originally, is I want to see if I can snake down through here, this opening, past the headlight and down to the intercooler. So if I can do that, that'll mean we'll get something sort of like this. Now the air intake is, again, we're gonna have to play with that. The air filter will probably live somewhere in this region. I don't know. We're gonna have to figure that guy out, but let's focus on the intercooler piping first. Now, one other cool thing that I did that I'm gonna show you guys, where I got the coil. So the coil is actually mounted off the back of the AC compressor mounting hole, which is no longer used, because what happens with the Kenne Bell is the AC compressor actually gets rotated over a little bit. So where there's normally those two bolts that go into that bracket to the head, it actually ends up only using one. And then, you know, the compressor is supported through the use of the Kenne Bell bracket and the factory power steering / AC bracket in the front. But anyways, managed to allow me to hide that coil, which really excited about. And you can see some wiring over here that I'm going to have to deal with. And the reason why I have to deal with it is because this is actually a 90 harness and the car is a 91. So the receiving harness has the single style connector, the brown plug, versus the gray and the black. So you can see here I've got a little diagram I've been going through, matching up the wires, and then there's a few that I'm going to have to run to make that work. You know, coil wire, that's going to have to get extended and run up to the coil, which is now up here, but we'll get into that in another video. Let's start playing with some piping and see if I can make this setup work. All right, so here's part of the kit. Black couplers, black piping. You can get it in the traditional, you know, bare aluminum, but you get a bunch of clamps. I wish these were all black, but you know, $100, hopefully we'll be able to come up with a puzzle that's gonna work here. So let's see. Just kind of a straight shot, right? Down to there, and then we can see our pipe right there. I feel like I can still get the headlight bulb in, which is key, which means now I just need to get from there to the intercooler, which kind of looks like something like this. Cut more. Alright guys, just as I was starting to get somewhere with the straight pipe, I don't know, there's something, and this is where, like, there's no way to make this symmetrical because the blower is offset more towards the driver's side. However, I feel like we can make things look generally cooler if need be. Alright, so instead of running the straight pipes, I'm feeling like these bends actually kind of, they look kind of cool versus, all right, if I just had like this weird straight pipe going straight across, like different strokes for different folks, right? So the problem with running these is that it's gonna create almost like unnatural angle through the couplers, where I rather the couplers be straight, and then that way, like, that actually looks pretty cool, right? So maybe I'm going to try and build off of that if I can, but let's see. One side is always easier than the other, and maybe it's just because I'm a little bit more of an expert now. However, I'm concerned about hood clearance over there. I feel like that might be too high. I'm really thinking that that's going to be too high. Looks cool, but no way. Alright guys, I think I've got it sorted out, and there's one I guess, junction I'm not a huge fan of, but I need to wait on something before I fully commit, and that is this 90 sitting right here. And the reason for that is because you can see over here the throttle body actually isn't fully bolted on yet, and we were hoping to go with the EGR Delete Slim throttle cable bracket, EGR Delete, coolant line delete plate here. However, it doesn't allow us to clear the bypass valve fitting that's coming off this guy here. So the IAC is too big. So we actually need to get this moved back out with the traditional 2-inch style, which is on its way. Should actually arrive today. And once that's in here, throttle body is going to be moved over. And then I need to double check the piping here with the mass airflow meter, and ultimately where an air filter is going to sit, because it's going to have to live somewhere in here. And I'm thinking of getting one of the, I guess, oval shaped filters. I actually have one at the house, and going to try that out and maybe stick it kind of vertically in right here. And hopefully, you know, there's going to be enough room here. So you can see this is sort of a 90, but yeah, I need to massage some stuff here. I would love if this junction didn't exist, or depending how much room we have here, we're gonna have to see. So this is actually the original pipe painted black. You can see the bypass valve is all connected here, right? And we need this, because if you don't have this, you can end up over boosting and everything else. So what this is doing is taking excess pressure, opening it up, and dumping it back into the inlet, back into the blower pre-rotors. So that is sort of the conundrum at the moment. I'm going to leave it here for now, but the reality is everything fits and goes down into the intercooler on both sides, and there's enough room to sneak headlight bulbs in, just barely, but it is doable. And that is going to be that for now. So I'm sure there's going to be a bit more work, but you guys definitely get the idea of what's going on here. And the other thing too is that there's nothing stopping some custom piping from being bent up or fabricated up or whatever else that could really be bent and fit the contours of the engine bay. For instance, if we look at the exhaust that was done on the twin turbo car here, right, could have piping like this that, you know, you can do whatever you want to do to snake it over whatever obstacles and everything else that you might have, like a tie rod. So just to give you an idea, you could do something like this, some stainless piping all in there if you wanted to. Only thing is that there would be a transition, you know, from whatever custom piping is done here to the inlets and outlets, or whatever, outlet and inlet. And yeah, but for now, you know, we want to get this car running. We want to do proof of concept. We want to make sure that we can get piping down in through this way without cutting holes into our aprons, and we have successfully managed to do that. So definitely at the very least an A for effort here, and I'm going to call it for today. It's just stuff like this actually really exercises your brain. Sometimes you just need to take a break, step away, come back to it, and sometimes you'll get an idea of how to route something differently, or I don't know, maybe you just get a little bit more creative. Sometimes a couple beers helps too, here and there. But that is that, guys. So we'll be back on Chuck's 91 GT.